So that's going to be, that 4 inches here is going to be our door opening. My 3 inches here is going to be our reference for a person. So we're already starting to build up the information that you can see here in the slide portion here on the left. Using the marker, I will, with the toe pointing up, I will make a mark, simple mark there. I'll note sort of the halfway point of that 3 inches, which is 1.5 inches, right? I'll make 2 strokes just below the waistline. Again, representing where the waistline is, it's halfway. The trunk of the person goes from the top of the shoulder down to the glutes. So my graph paper helps me with that, right? This is 1/4 inch graph paper, so it's just a nice helpful reference to that. So if I've been saying bring your graph paper and have that sort of helpful 1/4 inch reference. But we start, with the toe and then 2 strokes to represent the trunk of the person. Using the heel of the marker, I'll drag 2 legs down to ground as well as 2 arms. Again, reviewing, the hand falls below the belt line, right? So the arm should fall below the belt line or the waistline, which is the halfway point. That's how we build our basic figure, standing at 1/2 inch equals a foot, 6 foot person. Which I am not, but it works really well in the drawing. Anyway, Frank Lloyd Wright and Le Corbusier were both architects that developed entire proportioning systems around their height. They were both between 5'7", 5'9". And so folks have spent 50, 60 years trying to interpret their dimensions and things like that. If you've ever been to a Frank Lloyd Wright house, you know that things are really very healthy for the 5'7" person, but not for someone taller than that. I have a great photo of us in Oak Park, and I have a student named Dan Betker who graduated with his M-Arch a couple of years ago, and the top of his head touched the threshold of one of the entrances to the Roby house. He was that tall. Anyway, so not friendly to taller folks. That door, if it's 4 inches tall, is just a double line. So just make that like 1/8 of an inch thick, roughly. So just make that a double line. Mother, it's Wednesday. It actually is a cell phone from Muncie. It's not Mother. Okay. All right. Again, look at the door. What's above the door? An exit sign. Well, no. What's the piece of metal the exit sign is attached to? A header. What is the header for? Yes. So the door hangs from that header. The header spans the structural opening and allows the door to hang from that header. So we need to have a header above the door. So let's sketch in a little header right there. I'll just fill it in with marker there. You can see it there on the slide. Okay. Above the header might be a clerestory window. Here in the Midwest we say clerestory, but it's spelled clerestory. We have the clerestory right there above that door, which allows, I'm not sure what light would actually penetrate this room, but it's an architectural feature of this older part of the building. You'll notice in this 1971 portion of the building there are clerestories above most doors and offices, etc. Because the architects wanted the ceiling plane to feel like it was running continuous. Anyway, modernism. Well, it's lovely, right? Anyway. Okay. So that's a clerestory window above our door frame. Make that whatever you want. Make that whatever height you want. Okay. What's above that? an awning, or as we say in Baltimore, an awning. We have alumni in Baltimore too, by the way. And so with the heel of the marker, I'll just fill in a wall thickness there. And then some form of awning or signage feature. Awnings take on several looks now. Some are very decorative, some are very advanced. Some have signage included, so just a couple lines there as an extension of the architecture at that ground level. Would you like a sign in there as well? Maybe? Okay. So, that could be a circle, that could be a rectangle hanging from the awning, just as sort of a way of announcing what this is. If it's a restaurant or a shop. You can script, so with the toe of the marker, you can sort of play around with some script there. Just put some sort of fun kind of script on that sign. How wide are sidewalks?
10.
Answer is?
7.
It depends. The urban planner's answer to most questions is, it depends. Your sidewalk width should be determined by how many people are on that sidewalk. Your sidewalk width is determined by the amount of right-of-way you have between brick to brick or lot line to lot line. The answer is, it depends. But in this country, we like minimum sidewalk width to be based on one thing, and that is 2 wheelchairs passing each other. The ability for 2 wheelchairs to pass each other. Can they pass each other comfortably or not? And if they can't, or if the wheelchair can't pass at all, you have lawsuits. That's why downtown Muncie streetscape is the way it is today, without a curb, because wheelchairs could not get past certain places of business downtown. There was a lawsuit, and that's how the city had to respond. So the ability for 2 wheelchairs to pass each other, that's roughly 5 to 5.5, even 6 feet. So we need to allow a few inches, right? So probably another 3.5 inches, whatever you want, but it has to be probably at least 3. Again, so that 2 wheelchairs can pass each other. I'm going to go 3.5. Because that's what I put in the slide. There we go, 3.5. So that represents roughly 7 feet of width from the door frame into the sidewalk. And I'll just put 3.5 inches there as a reference. So 2 wheelchairs passing each other creates a dimension, creates a rule of thumb for a minimum sidewalk. But Magnificent Mile, Chicago, you're looking at 10, 12 feet foot width before you even get to the planting strip. And then you've got another 2 or 3 feet for the bus loading strip. Okay, Michigan Avenue is pretty genius in terms of all the things that has built into it. Broad Ripple Avenue, on the other hand, as many of you know, Broad Ripple Avenue is a disaster when it comes to sidewalk. And so you have pedestrians constantly falling into the driveway, and it creates a hazard for those folks. So yes, if you know Broad Ripple, you know that that is a dangerous place to walk. Okay. Next, looks like I've got 2 inches here for some sort of form of seating. Another 2 inches for the sign. We can actually start to make an articulated bus stop if you like. Of course, we're at 1/2 inch equals a foot, so that represents 4 feet of width. So we'll just keep adding now to the right. How tall is a seat?
18 to 24 inches.
Very good. Okay, so based on what you're sitting on, you're looking at a minimum of 16 to 18 to 24 inches. The basic measurement from the bottom of the sole of the foot to the middle of the knee, to the nap of the knee. Elbow of the knee, bend of the knee. From the sole of the foot to the bend of the knee is probably your minimum sittable height. I'm a short person, so I can sit on 16 inches fairly comfortably, right? But the standards, as we know, are 18 to 24 inches. So that means a foot and a half, which means anywhere from 3/4 of an inch to an inch at the scale that we're working. Or, if you have your graph paper, 3 squares. That is sittable height. Let's make some sort of bus shelter or something like that. Let's start to build. Let's build a little bit of a bus stop. Maybe. Okay. Clear head height is 6 to 7 feet. And we probably don't want anything shorter than that. We probably don't want water to drain to the sidewalk here. We probably want it to drain either into a planter or, dare we say, into the bike lane. I don't know. Maybe we just let's design something that brings the rainwater into a planter. So I'll strike a couple of angles there.
How high is that fixture?
This nexus right here is at 8 feet. And then I'll take the chisel, the marker, and just strike some stuff. Maybe that's timber, maybe that's steel. I'll use the heel of the marker to sort of strike something there. And let's have some fun with this. We'll just bring the rainwater directly into a planter of some kind here. Dig into this a little bit, and that'll be a butterfly roof rain planter that we can sit on. Sitting person. Same building blocks as a standing person. We just have to take this half of the person and transfer it over. All right? So this top half of the person, we just need to transfer them over onto the sittable space. So, how tall, what's the upper half of that person? About 1.5 inches. Come over, bring 1.5 inches here. There's the head. There's the trunk. Here's the leg sitting now on the bench. Got that? Set that upper half of the standing person. Just bring them over. 1.5 inch tall person. So that's their leg now sitting on this bench. Using the heel of the marker, you can cross their legs. So now they're chilling. Just chilling under the shelter there. So maybe we can start to think about this as some sort of articulated planter rain well. Maybe this is timber some sort of design. Okay. Probably now at the edge of the curve. Seven. 13. Like a bike lane?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Unless we are sharing the road.
I don't know. So there might be a curb, there might not. Depends. So some sort of curb condition there. How wide do we like our bike lanes to be? 4. So that would be another 2 inches. Wider? One-way bike lane. Just a one-way bike lane. 4? All right. So just that's probably another 2.5 inches. 2.5 inches would mean 5 feet width. So, okay. True separated New York curb. That could. I mean, look at 8th Avenue in New York. The bike lanes by Jeanette Sadiq Khan, the great transportation director for New York City under Mayor Bloomberg. And if you read her book, Street Fight, Urban Revolution, she talks about some of the bike lanes that we did in New York City under the Bloomberg administration. As many protected bike lanes as they could. And so the parking lane was moved out. Instead of the parked car being here and the bike lane here, they would move the parked car over to create the protected bike lane. And it started to make a lot of sense. So they copied that in Chicago, they copied that in Washington, D.C. It started to make a lot of sense in terms of how that was executed. So there's the bollard or the plastic bollard. The plastic bollards are collapsible when they're hit. The metal ones are not. And they make drivers very nervous, very cross. But some sort of bollard that marks the bike lane.
How tall do you have that?
Sorry, what?
How tall is that?
How tall is that? Looks like that's a 2.5 from curb up, so that's 5. Doesn't need to be that tall, so let's bring that down to 4. Reason being, that way a cyclist can see over it. So let's bring that down to 4 feet, which would mean that's 2 inches high. The cyclist can see over it, that's better. Let's build a bicycle in that lane, shall we? So I'm going to mark a center line sort of in the middle there. Pretty easy. It's basically almost eye level with the person. So, particularly if it's an upright bicycle or something like that, it's pretty close to our standing person over here. Pretty close. Okay? It's basically a person on a stool that has wheels on it. Difference is that the width of the hips are now straddling this center line. There's the toe of the marker making the wheel. Here's the handlebar. And there are the 2 arms meeting the handlebar. Simple upright bike. Not that different from a standing person. Even though you can see they're down at street level. Depends on the bike, but simple person coming at you in this particular direction. One leg is higher than the other, right? Yes? Why?
Pedaling.
With the pedals, yes. Okay. So one leg is higher. So you can do your Captain Morgan impression. Now things get complicated. Now for the car. How wide is a car?
6 foot. 5 foot.
Very close.
Yeah, that's what type of car it is, yeah. Saw a Hummer parked on Walnut Street a couple days ago. It's pretty wide. But, right? Didn't know they folks still had Hummers in Muncie. But anyway, so standard width for parking spaces. 20 by 20. Yep. So between, it's a range of between 8 and 18 to 9 by 20. Yeah. So the car occupies that space, doesn't it? Along with some space to get in and out of that parallel parking spot. So we're going to need to allow 8 feet in there, which translates to 4 inches. That's the space that the car will exist in. Now, the great book about that is called The High Cost of Free Parking. Another great book on that very subject. Who's read it? No one read it? Okay. So we need to allow 4 inches of space from the bollard for our parking lane. How tall is a car? Depends. Okay. All right. So a 4-door sedan is shorter than the Nissan Xterra or all these different SUVs that are there. But it used to be you could walk up and sound like an older person now. It used to be you could walk up to a 4-door sedan and your eye level would be where? At level with the roof. So 4-door sedans, coupes, and things like that are about 5 feet tall, and then you descend into the car, right? Now, right, with the SUVs, you're actually below eye level with the roof, and you're just stepping into the car. So, based on our persons, where do we put the roof of the car? What do you know? So we just put it above eye level, or head level. So if we were to put the roof of an SUV at just above 6 feet, we'd put it right up there. So just 1/4 inch higher than 6 feet. So 6 1/4 tall would probably get us an SUV, an American or Japanese SUV. So we'll just kind of block in the box that car exists in. What notes do I have here? Inch, half inch, 3/4 inch, half inch. That's center line. These are center line things. You can sort of see the marker stripe goes. So if we take this box that the car is existing in, if we were to come up from street level 1/2 inch, we'll mark that out. And then another 3/4 inch. Mark that out. Another 1/2 inch. All the numbers are up there. Oh, that's probably right. I was thinking more sedan there. Tell you what, we'll put kayaks up here. There we go. What? We'll put some canoes up here. Mazel tov. Anyway. All right. So 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 1. So there's some marker strikes involved here. Okay, so striking through that first 1/2 inch is the bumper. Next, that 3/4 inch is the grill, top of the grill. The next half of an inch is the bottom of the windshield. And then that next inch is the roof itself. Cars are not going to occupy this whole box. They're going to be tapered, right? So if we look at this roof and we taper it down, like so, taper down, then the mirrors will exist right there. The two rear view mirrors will exist right in there. So just make this rounded kind of edge that you can see in the slide there. Just kind of round it a little bit because the rain needs to run off of the car. That's the nose of the hood. And then below that are the two tires. Just drop in the two tires right in there. See how the car is starting to come together? Sort of. And then we've got our two canoes. So I guess we're going canoeing this weekend. Here we go. It must have been the case in this particular example. Here's it's like I've been here before. Yeah. There's the canoe right there. Anyway. And then I'll just reinforce some lines to sort of remember where I want to be. And the car will essentially be built up from that. Something like this. Okay. So look at where the bumper is there. That's your thick marker stripe down there. Look where the tires are. Those are your two vertical marker stripes. Look where the mirrors are. That's where the windshield meets the hood. You can see the hood is tapered towards us a little bit. This upper mark right here. That's basically where the headlights line up. So this is probably a 2000 Land Rover or something like that, something boxy, fairly, generic. Yes, we can get into specific car brands. Okay, my colleague Moran Day, who was on the landscape architecture faculty member, some of you remember her. She would get up here and draw a wonderful Mitsubishi or a Lexus, just from memory. Just looking at car elevations or even tracing car elevations into a drawing like this. But we're just building, just from a couple of marker strokes, a very basic SUV. So. And we'll use the marker just to indicate a bulb. The bulb there. So there's the beginning of a light and a light here. So it's like two acorns. We call those acorn headlights. Every city has different standards for this. New York has their standards. Pittsburgh has a street design guideline standard, and they have acceptable lamps. So every city is a little bit different. So we can actually articulate a street lamp that lights both the parking lane and the bike lane, and one that lights the pedestrian way. Now keep in mind, this structure, this tree, and the street light are not all occupying the same space. This is starting to build up layers of space in that elevation view. So if it looks crowded, don't worry. We're going to using line weight and hierarchy, we're going to start to bring elements forward and we'll take elements back. Okay? When that's ready, you're ready for the next layer of trace. All right, so fine line pen and sign pen, we'll have both of those ready. And we're just gonna, based on the information in the reference slide here on the right, we're just gonna lay in a bunch of line weight over our reference lines. I'll just freehand over that. And those just, we've kind of blocked out all the dimensions of our stuff with that marker layer, and we are just freehanding over that. So, is that better? Maybe? Same. And including our lettering, just freehand over that. Give whatever name you want. You can name it after yourself. Give it a fun name. Throw that door into the frame. And the third line represents the jamb. The door handle should be right at level with wherever the hand of our person is. So put the door handle in right around where their hand will be expected to be. Just kind of loosely freehand that in. So it should be at level with where the hand is. Putting the tree behind everything else. So lines disappear behind others, and reappear. Acorn style lighting, so it looks like an acorn hanging on a tree. It just hangs from these pieces of steel. Some really great street lights to look at are the ones in the warehouse district, south part of downtown Indianapolis. They all follow a design guideline set. So Georgia Street area, Convention Center area, Crackers Comedy Club, that whole section of Indy has its own style of street light. Of course, the Cultural Trail has its own street light. They are infamously referred to as the lightsabers of the Cultural Trail. They look like lightsabers standing at attention at a Jedi ceremony or something. Cyclist, I'm going to show the arms moving, sort of projecting forward towards us, and then straddling these handlebars, and the frame, and the tube of the tire coming towards us. So if this is a cycling lane, then the bicyclist is coming towards us. One leg, of course, is down. One is up, straddling the seat. One knee is slightly up to account for the pedal crank. and their belt line will be behind, roughly behind where the handlebars are. So then clothing, little helmet, sunglasses. There's a little bicycle sign that's just above head-high level that can assist with bicycle wayfinding. Chicago has bicycle wayfinding now on all of its cycle-friendly streets as well as its trails that give distances to Lakeshore Trail or points of attraction. So it serves as both a bicycling and pedestrian wayfinding signage level. You find that in areas of like North Halsted and Lincoln Park and things like that. Tapered body of this Range Rover. Bumper. Hood. Headlights. Grill. Some states still require that front license plate, as does Ontario. We don't here, but a lot of states still require a front license plate, so that's sort of falls into that front bumper there. Headlights now wrap around, as you know. They assist with turn signals, which nobody seems to use in Delaware County, but tires fall in like so. And then the dash, wheel, bucket seats. This could be a parked car or it could be a travel car. Let's assume that's a parked car. A little mirror in there attached to the windshield. And then 2 canoes, optional. Skis up there, or another bicycle, or something like that. I'll add some line weight. I'm going to add line weight to where this section is cutting through. It's cutting, for me, this section is cutting through this planter thing, cutting down into the curb detail, across the bike lane, up into that curb detail, over and into the pavement of the parking lane. I may choose to add also a little bit of line weight with the sign pen and the vertical direction. Remember, you can get multiple line weights out of the sign pen. And I'm going to use that to reinforce our structure shelter thing, just so it has some pop in the section. Remember, I can always add line weight, very difficult to take it away. I'll add line weight to the solids that are cut through this wall section, this partial wall section of the building. Just add line weight there and just try to fatten up these lines of emphasis that refer to what our section cut is cutting through. I'll take my number 6 gray, number 6 cool gray, and I'm just going to add emphasis add some emphasis to this cut. These areas of the cut that are solid, including the planter. Two, 3 layers should usually do it. You can always Photoshop gray into that area as well later on. And that brings us to the end of the line weight layer for our partial street section. So that brings us up to our line weights representing the areas of section cut through the ground, the poche here for the areas of the building section, the wall section here, just a little bit of shade in there. We've built up some line weight to create a sense of depth and hierarchy or structure. Here our rain collection structure is in front, collecting into this planter. There's a tree behind it, so lines might disappear behind the structure. We've got a street light also in the distance, so again, lines may temporarily cease to exist as they disappear behind the structure and so on. Just to give the impression of some distance with the tree in the background, the light, and then our rain collection structure there. Once that's completed, that's now a black and white drawing that's ready to scan. So that's definitely a layer that if the application or the situation provides, that might be enough. You may not need to render it. In fact, a lot of street sections look really good just in black and white or in grayscale like this. So it's for all the drawings that I do with Scott Truex and the Sustainable Communities Institute, we always scan the line art first. And that is, if we make a mistake or something changes, we always have a line art reference for that picture. If it needs to be reproduced, for instance, on a Xerox machine or otherwise, it's not, color printing isn't available, we always have a scan of the line art there. So I recommend, as you work at home, start to getting into the practice. If you feel like the line art is really good and it has potential as an image by itself, to get a scan of it before you render it. So that's something we definitely do down at Sustainable Communities Institute as we're preparing images. So because these drawings look pretty good just as grayscale or as line art drawings. So I will prepare my space now. I'll remove the underlay. Underlay. And I'll flip that over. And I'll prepare my colors. So, what do we start with? What's the first layer? Sky blue. Ah, yes. Sky Blue Sky. Another great Wilco album, Sky Blue Sky. So we start with sky blue. Need blotters. Blotters are there. All right, so we're just going to put in a little bit of sky. What the sky is for is just to reinforce where the negative space is. We can render directly over the tree, as you recall from last week, because the green colors will layer directly over it. So So just remember what the sky is for. It's not to make the drawing look too busy. It's just to tell us where the negative space is.
Or what?
Then I line up my greens, starting with yellow green, apple green, moss green, slate green, emerald green, just layer your greens directly over that sky blue. Don't worry about it, because these petroleum markers will displace and mix with the sky blue layer below. Jeez, these cameras are sensitive. Man. I'll add in emerald green near the bottom. Use a cool gray for the tree, cool gray for the trunk of the tree, as well as primary branches. Some grass green for the grasses. Bit of tan or yellow in these grasses here. What color should we make our light fixture? If you're not sure, then just use a little bit of gray, because they vary from city to city. Some cities they're green. Pittsburgh they're kind of a dark gray. Chicago, New York they're black. So it varies from city to city. If you're not sure, then just use a gray just to touch up the side of the light fixture there. I like a lot of red in the urban environment because it contrasts with the green of the trees. And that's just the influence that Columbus, Indiana has had on me. But, but I like a lot of red. I don't know why, I just do. I notice the car has quite a bit of gray and blueberry. That's just, again, if you're not sure what color car you really want to work with, then we know that the interior of a car tends to be fairly dark during the day, so it has a little bit of darkness and a little bit of streaking there.